Namaskar, my name is Poonam Gulalia. In today's video, we will be discussing the importance, the need of a new concept called self-awareness. The importance of self, the use of self-awareness as a skill in fieldwork. So, I do hope that you will be mindful and alert in listening, understanding and trying to imbibe the need to be aware of oneself. Basically, what does it mean when we use the term self-aware or self-awareness? It means that we are tuning in or have the ability to tune in to our thoughts, our feelings and our actions. And why do we need to be aware of self when we are working in the field is this other important aspect which we need to discuss as we go along. When we discuss the importance of being aware of self, it's essential to understand other related concepts like personal identity, social identity, our understanding of others whom we are interacting with in the field. Self-awareness is a skill, as I just mentioned, and it requires that we be aware of our own strengths and limitations as we conduct ourselves as a student social worker or as a trainee social worker, as it is alternatively called. Understanding our strengths implies being accepting of our limitations as well. So, what is it that we call our strengths, our confidence, the maturity which we have, the fact that we are willing to learn from others, the fact that we need to be open to learning, the fact that we may be required to unlearn before we learn new things in the field. Another important aspect in learning and being aware of self is that we are a student social worker. Being in the learning space implies that although we are in a helping profession, there may be spaces, there may be aspects where we may learn from our clients, from our client groups, from the communities we work with, from some of the community leaders we engage with, and also from the professionals and paraprofessionals whom we work with through the organizations where field placement takes place. Very often, students tend to think that because we are in a professional course and the people we interact with may not be as educated in that sense, we may not be able to learn from them. But that is not true. The people in the field carry their own experience, have their own lived realities, have their own strengths, and when we can put these two strengths together, it's a win-win situation for both the student and the client. Learning about oneself also implies that we remain open to the different kind of situations which we will be confronted with in the fieldwork setting. So, some students may be in an institutional setting and may have a different atmosphere of work, a different atmosphere of learning. Some may be placed in communities and the learning spaces would be very different from them. So, the awareness of self which we bring to the situation is essential in the varied settings that we are placed in. Awareness of self is also important in terms of the fact that we will be with co-workers, we will be with peers who also come with different backgrounds, different socializations, different baggages sometimes from their own learning and their own prior experiences. Some students may be coming with voluntary work experiences. We may have classmates who may have worked earlier in the field or may themselves be hailing from marginalized or vulnerable backgrounds. Some of us may be coming from urban spaces not having had exposure to social realities, to the social sector. So we may be alarmed by some of the situations in the field, and some others may be able to take it in their stride. So all these practical aspects need to be taken care of in enabling us to be aware of oneself and to learn self-awareness as a skill required in the course of our journey. How do we see ourselves? How do we perceive ourselves? Become another important aspect in being aware of ourselves. Sometimes the way we perceive ourselves is very different from the way others perceive us. It may seem very simplistic to you, but it has a big impact in the way we conduct ourselves in the field, in the way we work in teams, in the way we engage with group work exercises among ourselves initially, and also in the way we conduct ourselves when we engage with, say, spaces like conducting community meetings or doing group processes in an institutional setting, or conducting group games, or maybe the biases which we are carrying come out in the open, knowingly or unknowingly, when we are in the field. Explaining all this, I am sure you will understand that it becomes necessary that we use these spaces for learning. When we write our process recordings, we narrate very explicitly our experiences in the field. We move ahead in the process recording space to write not only our observations and our reflection of what we have engaged with, that is what we call the other, the client or the client group, but also of ourselves in that situation. So looking back at the end of the day, at the end of the week, how do we respond to our own learning in the field will enable us to enhance our skill of self-awareness. There will be spaces, I am sure you understand, where our supervisor or our facilitator would also bring to light that in this given situation, from what you have recorded, from what you have reported, from what you have shared in the supervisory conference, you seem to have been a little biased, a little emotional, a little judgmental, or not obviously inclusive of all the people involved in a group while working there. We may not always be conscious of ourselves while working in the field, and therefore these spaces of learning become important for us to understand what the supervisor or the facilitator is bringing to light, what they are highlighting. I am sure you appreciate that not always will we take it in a positive way. We might be surprised that the supervisor has been able to see that we have not always been as professional as we would require to be in the fieldwork setting. And that is actually the role of the supervisor which they are playing in this setting. So something as small, as minute, as being self-aware becomes a very important aspect in our learning. And that's why it is being flagged today in this video as an essential skill that we require to learn as we move along. I'm sure that you will always understand that there could be spaces when our co-workers have also brought to light or might bring to light that, you know, in that particular given situation when we were working together in the field, you were very closed when that particular client opened up about, say, a situation, for example, about a domestic violence case, or a situation where a child abuse was reported, or a situation where a migrant workforce responded about being dislocated from their place of stay. And you were not responding appropriately, you didn't speak up, you were very quiet, and you might realize that yes, it's true that what my co-worker is trying to tell me did happen, and I didn't realize it at that time. But when I reflect, when I sit back, when I go back and think about what happened during the course of the day, when I write about it and discuss it with my peers and my supervisor, I realized that I need to think about, was it that unknowingly some situation has happened in my own personal life or in the life of people I know or among some friends that I know of or in my neighborhood, which has impacted me and which has made me this way. Probably not as open as I am required to be as a student social worker. So these are very carefully negotiated spaces. These are the nuances which we require to learn, to be aware of oneself and to garner the skill so that in due course of time, in the next fieldwork days, in the next semester, as the professional working moves on, we are able to garner this skill and enhance our ability to work more effectively in the field. I am sure you appreciate that if one is aware of oneself, one will not only be able to do justice to oneself by nurturing the necessary skill, but also we will be able to reach out better to our clients, to our communities. We will be appreciated more for the work and the inputs we are trying to make in the field. The organizations we work with will also begin to see us as more confident, more skillful, more mature, and it will enhance our self-esteem, our self-worth. So many aspects are linked to developing this skill as a student social worker. I am hopeful that you are on the same page with me in understanding the need for developing, working on and enhancing the skill of self-awareness. There are a couple of exercises which we could do individually or even in groups when some of you get together in the campus, in the fieldwork agency or in any other informal space where you can utilize this exercise for your own growth, for your own awareness of self. So what does this exercise entail? It entails that we sit down peacefully and just think of a symbol maybe which we would like could represent us, and we make a note of that symbol for ourselves. Subsequently, after giving ourselves say 5 minutes to do that kind of exercise, we share our experience with the members of the group, with people we are close to, with whom we think there is a comfort level, and in exchanging that thought, that experience, that exercise, maybe some thought may come to light and make us more aware of ourselves. If I take an example of myself at this moment, just to enable you to do this exercise for yourselves in your own free time, in your own free space and at a comfort level where you would like to do it. So if I give myself a couple of minutes to think, I would probably say and share that I have used the symbol of the moon. Why would I use the symbol of the moon to identify myself for here and now? I would say that I identify with the moon as a symbol when I want to express myself symbolically to you or to the group members who are with me, because my name is Poonam. I like the name, I like the term, the synonym Purnima. I incline myself and feel empowered when there is a full moon in the sky. I like to look up every night and see what is the shape of the moon, and related thoughts which I have would be shared with you. What are we doing? By doing this simple exercise, one, we are tuning in to our own thoughts, to our own feelings. We are symbolizing ourselves, identifying ourselves through a symbol, but also reflecting the same in the group. Others in the group would also share their thoughts about the same. A comfort level would arise. We would be able to understand each other better. It would enable us to reflect on our own selves. On another day or at another time, we might think differently, no doubt. But the bonding which happens, this exercise will enable us to bring more awareness of ourselves to ourselves to begin with. The confidence that we gain will empower us personally and professionally, of course. How do we identify ourselves becomes very important, but it also gives us food for thought. The food for thought is essential because, as I mentioned to you, our fieldwork settings may be different when we are undertaking concurrent fieldwork, when we are going to the field supplemented with classroom teaching. It will be different if we are stationed together in what is called, over the decades, a block fieldwork program, where we in groups are housed in a particular setting. We engage with organizations and the outreach work that they do. Why do you think I'm taking the example of a block fieldwork? For understanding the self and empowering oneself to develop self-awareness as a skill. To take another more recent example, if we are staying together with students in a particular location, it implies that we are cooking together, we are eating together, we are sharing rooms, we are sharing workspace, we are mindful of the hygiene of the space we are occupying. There may be a situation where there may be an attached kitchen. So when we stay together, we learn about each other. We also become aware of ourselves. Are we very particular about cleanliness? Are we okay if someone else is cleaning the place for us? Are we okay with pitching in to help out the person who's deputed to clean the place? In case someone who's deputed to clean the place is not available, do we together work around cooking together, cleaning up, making the purchases, keeping the place clean, washing our own washroom, putting our clothes to dry, picking them up? These seem very simple to begin with. These seem like everyday activities that we do in our own homes. But sometimes we may find that we are not comfortable with doing these along with our core workers, or along with our supervisors whom we stay with, or along with the field contacts whom we stay with. Suddenly we may find power equations emerging. We may find a hierarchy emerging even among co-workers. What do all these experiences teach us? How do these experiences enable us to learn about ourselves? How does it help us, beyond learning only about the organization whom we work with, beyond learning about the staff, the hierarchy in the organization, the structure of the organization, the functioning of the organization, the activities of the organization, the mandate of the organization? Because it appears at the face level that when we go for, maybe as I said, block field work or rural practicum, or any place where we are required to stay together, our focus tends to be on learning about the organization and its work. Whether it's a non-government organization, whether it's a field action project, whether it's a community project, whether it's a closed institution, whether it's an organization working for outreach work in the community. What is our attempt? What is our focus? कि संस्था क्या काम करती है, वो सीखने जा रहे हैं हम. What does the organization do? संस्था किस तरह से काम करती है, कितने लोग हैं वहाँ, वो कैसे रहते हैं, वो क्या करते हैं. So everything is about the other. What is it about ourselves which comes to light in such situations becomes equally important to learn and garner as a skill. Do give it some thought as to why through this video one is using this opportunity to bring to light this learning which happens when we stay together, because others are also watching us. Others are also there to see. The client group also observes that what are the values we bring along with the skills that we bring to the profession. What are the values we profess? What are the values that we enact? What are the values we believe in? the principles which are taught to us in the classroom in terms of acceptance, in terms of being non-judgmental, in terms of being emotionally involved but maintaining professional boundaries. Do we utilize those principles? Do we utilize those principles when we stay with co-workers in a given space for a given time period with a particular mandate, but also reflecting the values that we have been brought up with, the values that we believe in, and the values that we wish to profess as a professional social worker. Exercises enable us many a time to learn from, to reflect on, and also to be able to understand what we call our own personal identity, how our personal identity shapes our professional identity. So I would like to read just maybe 10 sentences which you can complete as you're hearing this video, or if you can write them down and complete it in your own time and then reflect on it. Also, when you find the opportunity to discuss it with your respective supervisors, so that it will enable you to think about what we have been discussing so far. So I am reading 10 sentences which, as I mentioned, you can just write down and reflect on after completing the sentences for yourselves. These 10 sentences are as follows. One activity that I enjoy most is blank space. So you will complete it. I am repeating. One activity I enjoy most is, please fill in the blanks. The second statement is, my goal in life is, please complete the sentence again. My goal in life is, complete the sentence for yourself. Third, I feel most important when ... I feel most important when ... Fourth sentence, one question I have about life is ... We need to complete these sentences for ourselves and then reflect on what we have written for ourselves and how do we view our own personal identity. That is the exercise that is being done here. A thought I keep having is, next sentence, something I do well is, next sentence which you need to complete again is, I regret when, what regret do I have when whatever happens is what you have to complete. I expect people to ... What people like most about me is ... So these sentences, if we attempt to complete as an exercise on personal identity, we will be able to arrive at what we think about ourselves, what we feel, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it is enabling us to be aware of ourselves. If we find ourselves surprised after we complete the sentences, we could definitely use this opportunity to discuss it with our respective supervisors. If we feel comfortable, we could discuss it even among our peers and our co-workers. So I do hope that through this video, which seems simplistic but is extremely important for us to be effective in the field, we can use it for our own personal and professional growth. I am sure that you will use this opportunity and others which are being provided to you for enhancing your fieldwork journey in the profession of social work. We are very hopeful that you are committed to the cause, you have signed up for something that you are passionate about, and you will do justice to the values and the skills which we are trying to enhance through these videos. All the best to each one of you. Do take care. Thank you so much.